Hi guys, thanks for waiting, and well, thanks for joining us today for our first live webinar where we'll be talking about the emerging trends in workplace and facilities management. So for those of you who are not familiar with Archer, we're a specialist recruitment firm focusing purely on real estate, construction, and the engineering space. I myself focus purely on the recruitment for facilities management, as well as corporate real estate roles within that area. And today we've got with us two speakers. So firstly, obviously, we've got William with us, who's an expert in providing real estate, IoT, and analytics-based solutions. He's got 17 years of experience under his belt within the real estate technology space. And he'll be talking about the shift in industry demands, priorities, and smart workplaces. Our second speaker is going to be Sushil, who's going to join us shortly. He's got 18 years of experience in providing corporate real estate solutions across multiple regions. He's worked on both the service provider as well as the client side of things. And he's going to mainly be talking about the end user perspective on the changes of the real estate solutions from both the employer as well as the employee's point of view. So before we get started, I just want to mention that if you guys have any questions during the webinar itself, you can scroll down and post your questions there, and I'll try and collate and try and answer as many of them as we can towards the end of the webinar. So yes, William, I'll leave it to you. You can carry on.
Yep. Okay, Hassaan. Thanks. Let me just share my yeah. Hassaan, just quick check. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining this session, and thanks to Archer Recruitment for inviting me to come and give a bit of insight into what we're seeing in technology and real estate. So I'm going to walk you through some of the content. Now, since COVID-19, the world as we know it has changed quite a fair bit. In my segment, we're not trying to give you all the answers and tell you what the future exactly look like, but we're going to do a little bit of engineering thinking to dissect what has changed and how we as the industry, how we as FMs, as CRE can move forward into that new paradigm, right? So the first thing I wanted to start with is, let's start with things that we know, right? I mean, as real estate, as facilities, we all have priorities, and we've been working on that for years, really good at that. Managing cost and efficiency, provisioning how many seats, how many rooms, provisioning collaboration space, town halls, etc. We've been really good at, I mean, there hasn't been any big cases of people dying in a modern workspace. Environmental health and safety always has been up there in what we do. And in recent years, a lot more around understanding how humans interact with the space and how do we optimize that to enable the employee or the worker to actually be more efficient, which leads us to a last one, which is human experience. How do we give employees and occupants or users of space have a great experience coming into the office, getting their work done, and then going back home? Right now, what's happened with COVID-19 is, first of all, I'll say the priorities don't go away. I mean, 10 years later, I think we'll still be looking at those items as key of what CRE and real estate does. But what COVID-19 has done is inserted very high-level necessities. Now, I call them necessities, not demand, not priorities, because these were the things that were thrust upon us. You had no choice to say, well, let's put it as high priority or low priority. No, it came to us. To be honest, originally we all thought, well, it's going to blow over at some point. So this is kind of like, okay, let's react to this and wait for it to blow over and it will go back to the normal, right? Things like the home workplace, depending on which country you're in, people were told to work from home. And there were penalties put in place by certain governments that says you can't go to the office, and if you do, or if you have too many people in the office, you're going to get fined, you're going to be shut down, right? And that example played out in Singapore. The compute experience has gone up a few notches, right? I mean, in the office, you have a meeting room, you have areas to converge and discuss, collisions in the corridor. However, everybody's at home, and just how do they connect to one another, that became really key, right? I know we all have web conference and everything, voice conference, but never at this level of intensity. We moved from work-life balance to work-life arrangements. What do I mean? Arrangement means you're at home with your kids, with your wife. You and your wife both have to work. So this is just an example. And there's noise. Who's going to take care of the kids? Kids need to do home-based learning, etc. Now, everyone's situation is different, but I think almost everyone had to face this thing called work-life arrangement. How do I arrange my life and my work so that they don't collide into one another, right? So not so much just the balance, but just making sure you survive both sides of it. Safety and compliance, as people start to get back into the office, the game has changed. There's social distancing, there's cleaning, there is, look, nobody wants anyone to catch COVID-19 in their office, right? Or any workspace at the provision, right? So the requirement has gone really high. We are used to doing it, but not to this level. And the key thing is the risk, right? You're carrying much more risk operating the space than you did, say, 10 months ago. And which all will lead to a new expectation of what the office space should be. Now, the office space will not go away. It will still be needed. It's just like you've got football matches and you've got live streaming and TVs. Why do you need a stadium, right? Well, the physical part of it is always going to be there. But the expectation of it is going to be different. Now, how different? We don't fully know that yet because it has not played out. We can hypothesize, we can project, we can extrapolate, but no one actually out there fully understand what it will exactly be. And I think it's going to be a learning journey as you adjust and look at it and adjust to get to the new normal, right? Now, guys, if you have questions, just type away in the question box below. I won't be able to see it right now because I'm seeing my slides, but we'll come to them as we finish off the content. I just want to say those necessities, initially we thought it probably go away, go back to normal, but no, it's turned into long-term. 10 months in, 12 months in, depending on which country you are, the home workspace is going to be part of going to be an important part of workplace in the future, right? Now, if we look at the supply side, meaning what are we, real estate, CRE, provisioning, right? We provision the office workplace. We don't really cut into the home workplace, right? That's the line between office and work and home, right? And the seamless compute and connection will continue. I know in CRE, we do room booking systems, desk booking, etc. But it's going to have to be much more seamless and continue to be seamless. A lot of this remote working is taken care of by the IT department, not CRE, not FMs, right? Work-life arrangements need some way to resolve. It's no longer just about coffee and meals. It's childcare, it's, laundry and all that kind of stuff, right? Safety and compliance, have to come up to this level at all the time. And the new expectation of office, safety and compliance, we have never seen this level of requirement, right? And then the new expectation of office now, are we going to lean on the architects, the furniture people, or the consultants, where actually this future has never been played out? So it's as much learning for them as it is for you, right? So this is where we are in terms of, on the left, things that become long-term necessities, and things on the right, which how we looked at the world. And what we see will happen is that real estate organizations need to evolve, not just real estate, but generally companies need to evolve, right? Around how do we provision space, be it digital or physical, right? The home workspace, from a CRE perspective, you guys have fantastic purchasing power and good price points for all the ergonomic items and stuff like that. IT has for all the computing equipment, monitors, etc. I think there's an opportunity to evolve to say, help the employee be able to provision, the right kind of workspace to the same standard as in the office. So that could be the new normal. Now, on the right is what I'm suggesting as based on what we've seen in the last 10 months, right? And the seamless compute and connection, digital, physical, you are in a meeting room with a video conference and everyone else in Zoom. I asked this question, or asked yourself this question, since the start of COVID, have you all done more video conferencing without the need of that Polycom expensive thing? I think video conferencing has never seen so much use in the world as the last 10 months, yet probably just 1% of those video conferences were done with high-end equipment. Most of them were like what we're doing right now, using just your laptop, your notebook, right? So look, that's going to drive that convergence of how do we provide physical and digital space for the employee to work and make that as seamless as possible, right? And that will probably drive more integration or more collaboration between IT and CRE. The work-life arrangement part is complicated. It probably require more support avenues that need to be thought about. I don't think there's an answer for that, but the work-life arrangement piece is important because you obviously can't work if there's a lot of noise and people running around. And for those of you in Singapore, we have small spaces, but nothing compared to our colleagues in Hong Kong who can have really tiny spaces with a lot of people in there. Safety and compliance, we really need to think about real-time aspect of it. Why do I say that? Now, given the current situation, you don't really want to know that you have overcrowded the space at lunchtime, and to only know that at the end of the day or at the end of the week or end of the month, right? A lot of how we look at things is if it's something that's wrong that's happening, like 10 people is like in a meeting room and celebrating a party, right? And they loiter there for X amount of period. I mean, it's good to have a report to say that, well, yeah, this happened in the space. But I think it's more important in our new normal that you have immediate ability, be it an alert, be it a red light that goes off at the corner of the room, to tell people to stop that behavior. And so you fix it at that point in time. And in order to achieve that, you need that real-time part of it, not end of the day report, not end of the month report. And finally, the new expectation office, as I've said in the previous slide, it's all new to many people, including consultants, including the architects and the furniture people, right? Everybody is trying to figure out what that looks like, and everybody will be trying really hard to get there. But as part of learning anything new, a closed loop kind of approach needs to happen. As in, you make changes, you measure it, you look at it, well, did that work, did that not work? Okay, let's adjust again, until you get to some semblance of fit for the purpose, right? And underlying all of that, right, and the new normal on the right is what we see and the questions we're starting to have to ask, and the possible areas that we need to focus on. We haven't even talked about who's responsible for that. Is that IT? Is that CEO? Is that someone else, right? And what about the funding, the key questions? A lot of what you have to do on the top will result in the question of funding. Now, make no mistake, right now, a lot of employees are funding some part of work, their own electricity bill, their internet connection, their home compute device, right? So I think those two are the big red thing, who's responsible for what and who's funding what, right? So the next one, what I want to offer you guys is, look, there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, and there's no one silver bullet for everyone, right? It really depends on your context, right? The CRE or the FM or the culture of your company, right? I'm offering you some considerations. If you think about it, look at your own situation. Are you a revenue generator? Is real estate revenue generator, or is it a cost, right? If you are manager of a co-working space, you are a revenue generator. If you are sort of managing lease office space for your business, that would likely be a cost, right? So in terms of contribution revenue, if you're a revenue generator, you can always figure out investment versus ROI. And if you are more occupier, then you have to you most likely more tied around expenses. So really consider how much it's going to cost to help you deal with the new normal versus what's ROI, right? The second consideration would be, what kind of industry are you in? Are you an industry that struggles to fight for the top 1% of talent, or are you industry, let's say back office, where yes, you still fight for talent, but not at that cutthroat pace? And so that will also color how much you're going to do, how much you're going to spend, to what extent, right? It's a balance between hygiene, meaning the workspace is safe enough for me to come to work without catching COVID-19 or some future virus bug. And attraction, it's safe enough, and yet it really caters to the way I work, right? Leased or own, if you own it, you're looking 10 years, 20 years, whatever. At least you're probably looking, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? And green versus brownfield, right? If it's greenfield, a new build, you can fit a lot of these things in during the build, or if it's brownfield, it's a little bit more complicated. So we talk about CapEx and OpEx, and I think we're starting to see the third option, which is really outsourced. And I'll talk about that, a bit about that later. Regulatory and risk, yes. Again, are you in pharmaceutical, which is a very high touch on biohazards and all that, all the things around it, or are you, back office accounting firm, right? That will, you don't apply the maximum to a situation that is lower risk, right? So again, depending on your industry, your requirements, you might have to do more, might have to do less. The other consideration, your current situation, is what have you invested in terms of technology and data before? And if you have invested in sensors, you have invested in solutions that measure utilization, they can be extended or repurposed, or even you might have to change some to help you cope with the future, right? And finally, the integration with IT and HR. In the previous slide, we said that the future is going to need more tight integration and co-working between IT, HR, CRE. But really, some companies are really quite advanced in that journey, as in they are all tight at the waist. Some are still Chinese walls and etc. Now the question will be, well, what's the existing culture around that? What's the structure around it right now? And look, IT and HR and CRE are all significant cost structures, and you cannot just imagine tie a ribbon around them and that's end of story, right? So that's definitely going to be structure and cost discussions. So this is my last slide before I go into two examples. I think I want to leave you with this key message. The future is not only about the space. Space, yes, is going to change, scope. Yes, a lot of changes. But I think it's not just the space, the organization and the scope, right? Between IT, HR, CRE, FM, the scope, it's not just office anymore, it's office plus home. Like it or not, it will go into the home. And there is also the other part of it, which is who is doing what, right? The builder, the landlord, or the occupier. What we've seen is that landlords have and builders have taken more and more interest in how space is being used, even before COVID-19. And part of that responsibility, let's say safety, right? Not overcrowding the office. Could that be a responsibility for the landlord or the builder can build in the smarts to prevent such a thing from happening, right? So that there are things around your own internal support organizations, the whole ecosystem of builders to occupiers, and yes, the line between the home and the office, or reaching into the home to enable people to work, right? Technology and data underpins it. that you need to consider what technology investments you've already made and whether you can extend or repurpose if necessary. The focus towards real time will be much more acute for two things. Detection and prevention needs to be real time, because you don't want to be told that you broke the law 3 times last week. You want to know that the law is being broken and then you corrected it and dispersed the crowd, right? And the other part of the data is you're going to have to keep iterating your new space. And without data to understand what part of the space works, what part of the space doesn't work, you can't really iterate effectively. And as I said, ITHR, CREFM, builder, landlord, occupier, the data that comes out from the space often has multiple users for different people. And so the data, you can multiply the ROI of the data you're collecting if you can share it with the people that you trust, that the people to use it for the purpose you want it to be used, right? So that's the technology and data piece of it. And the third one, let's be very pragmatic and honest about it. It's going to need money, right? And again, the question is who does what, who pays for what, how do we pay for it, how do we fund it, right? I've said before, builders and landlords are increasingly incorporating some of this stuff into their builds. So it could be incorporated into a rent. So for example, instead of having to spend 50,000 to put something in place for Office X, when you lease Office X, it already comes with all the sensors and all the tech solutions in it, and you're paying another $1 more on rent or 50 cents more on rent, right? So that's actually been happening or starting to be an interesting concept with the builders and landlords even before COVID. Greenfield builds, your specification, what you're going to build into the space will need to incorporate a lot of that new stuff. Or if it's a brownfield thing, you might have to incorporate it into your operational budget, right? So again, so these are the 3 things, I think, apart from just the space, right? The organization and the scope of who you're going to be talking to, who's going to be working with you in order to enable work. The technology and data, existing and future, right? And funding and the source. Where do you get the funding and who pays for it, right? And how does it get paid? Now, I'm going to move to the examples, right? So in these examples, what I'm trying to illustrate is before COVID-19 came along, I worked on a number of projects where the clients had a very clear view of what they want to achieve, right? The priorities, right? And then I was part of a team that delivered the solution to them in order to achieve those goals. Right. And then what I'm trying to show on this slide on the far right is the opportunities of how they can repurpose or pivot that investment that's really been made in order for them to be able to cope with the current situation and into the future, right? So the first example, it's MNC, global occupier. They were at that point, and remember, this is before COVID-19, right? They were interested in space optimization, many offices in the region, many floors, different types of fit out at different point in time. They were at a stage where they're thinking, how do I optimize the space? Where do I have access? Where do I have too little space? And they're going through a divestment where some elements of the business could be split. So they were really interested to understand provisioning capacity. If they split into 2 business, and they had to put a wall in between them, what does it look like? How many should I provision on the right and on the left? Of course, cost and efficiency. And they also took the opportunity to validate some of the designs, meeting rooms, internal stats, etc., to see whether those were actually being used, right? The investment they put in gave them real-time, smart and perpetual monitoring of occupancy. And so we're talking to the minute kind of accurate. It's fairly accurate and to the minute. So they know exactly how many people are in the office or in this segment of the office at any point in time, pretty accurately. They put this across their portfolio, 13 floors, 6 buildings, 4 countries, 250,000 square feet. Now, because they put this in and it's a real-time system, right? It does know how many people are in different parts of the space at different points in time, and it is accurate, right? The opportunities for them is to pivot this towards real-time prevention, right? As soon as a space is crowded beyond what it's supposed to have, and the crowd loiter for X number of minutes, perhaps a light somewhere goes off, perhaps some form of alert is generated to tell the crowd to disperse, right? And also, because they have all this monitoring and analysis, they will be in a good position when they reopen the office and they have to adjust the workspaces. They will be able to figure out what are the things that made the changes that made versus whether those have reached the outcomes they were seeking. And so that allows them the closed loop data drive. Now, I'll flip to another example, which is a premium co-working space. They are not the run-of-the-mill co-working space with an individual account that you can go and buy and come to the space. It's more of a corporate, and they sell seats by the 50 blocks. And pre-COVID priorities were around every square inch of the space need to be making money, right? So the better you can optimize the space, the better you can generate revenue. So this is a very revenue generation focus. I understand many of you will not be in that situation, but I wanted to give you the flip side of it so that you get a balanced view of it. And so they were really interested in monetizing every square foot of the space, right? And understanding the design elements of it versus the use element of it. They created really nice, funky space, but what's the use of that? Nobody actually bothers to use them, right? Yeah, and they were also using it for revenue optimization, right? Some of the sub-business models within the space, do you rent out the room or as a pay-per use, or do you will you get more by just renting out the whole room as an office to a client, right? So those were the kind of things they were interested in. So similarly, they put in a different technology, but real-time smart and perpetual occupancy monitoring, right? It's a different solution, but it's also highly accurate and real-time. 72,000 square foot, 2 floors, right? Now, as a co-working space, I think it's more acute that you don't want to have anyone catch COVID-19 in your space. Potentially, that shuts down all the other tenants in your space, right? Because you're a co-working space. So one guy from company X gets it, you might end up having to shut down company Y, Z, ABC. That's really a high-risk situation, right? So again, real-time prevention and rectification, really a lot. I can't repeat this more often because you've got to detect the faults when it happen and rectify it rather than wait for end of the day, end of the month, right? So in that sense, it will have ability to understand whether certain areas are being overcrowded, rooms, areas, desks, and all that stuff, breakout areas, even canteen, yeah. But also at the same time, because co-working space have high turnover of people, as in this desk today can be used by 3 different people, and the person using it yesterday or the 3 person using it yesterday is different from the 3 person using it today. So what does that mean in terms of cleaning and disinfection of the space? There's opportunity for them to use some of the smarts to say, well, we're going to follow a fixed cleaning routine, but if we detect certain areas kind of have a lot of turnover, we should go and get it clean. Or certain spaces that like totally the desk will not use for the whole day. Maybe the question is, well, why should we be cleaning that desk, right? So there are opportunities around that, not just blindly increase cleaning everywhere for everything, right? So this is my last slide, and I'm going to unshare and hand it back to Hassaan. But I'm happy to take any questions. I hope I can't see your faces, so I cannot gauge your reaction. I hope I haven't spoken too fast, but guys, if you have any questions, just type away in the box below. All right?
All right, thanks, William. Yeah, we'll let Sushil carry on from here.
Are we good to start?
Yep.
Awesome. Let's get the document out. I hope you're able to see the content. Slide number 1. Okay, great. First of all, I want to thank Archer for inviting me in this webinar, and it's an honor to share the stage, although virtually, with William. William is a thought leader in workplace and technology, and I can't agree more about the real-time operations of how technology is going to evolve in the future, of detection, prevention, responses, as well as occupancy management. I think it's going to be a huge pitch to watch out for. So my name is Sushil, as the introduction was said, and I apologize upfront. I have had some audio challenges, but I hope I'm coming across clearly and the content is coming across clearly. I wanted to start with this research publication from JLL recently. A lot of words there. It's a busy slide, but I needed your attention. In the small little graph on the left side, the equation that states that increase in home working, which is essentially what everybody is going through right now, is not translating to decrease in demand in office space. We are seeing continuous dependency on office space, despite many people, many companies painting that they're going to be working more virtually than in the past. The relevance of office and how it is still an integral part of the fabric of the culture, collaboration in the organization is still here. So everybody in this call today, in this webinar today, if you've got anything to do with workplace, facilities, real estate, if you're already a practitioner or if you're an aspirant, you're still relevant to what's going on here. Moving forward, wanted to share what would that mean in terms of an employee from an expectations perspective. Employees are looking for collaboration. This is now main stage. We knew that and companies needed to be innovative, and for innovation, the co-creation collaboration was integral part. All of that happened in one roof. It was very easy, most often than not. Now that we are so dispersed and diverse, everybody working from everywhere, and that team is setting going forward, collaboration is going to be even more main stage. From an employee perspective, this is mainstream for them to be productive. The second one is, in my words, life in harmony. This is sophistication or graduation of work-life balance that the industry that revolves around office space have spent at least 2 to 3 decades of work-life balance. We've spoken about, a lot of research has gone inside. Why do you think that's graduating to a totally new level, life in harmony? Why is that? Well, even though we had some work at home or different places, probably phone calls and such in the past, now the scenario is different. All of us attending this webinar, we used to go to certain organizations to consume this sort of content. Now we're doing everything virtually from home, and that means we are adjusting from our dining spaces to living room spaces, bedroom spaces, kids in the background, multiple people working from home at the same time. Stress levels are high, and that requires a certain degree of harmony. Employees are certainly looking for a lot of choice. Choice in terms of not just workplace or how they can work, but choice on almost everything. Timing to how they are presenting themselves in every aspect of productivity. Last one is digitization. Now that everybody is working in all kinds of places, the digitization is on the rise. I was reading an article that says that the gadgets such as iPads and mobile devices are selling more than ever in the past because of high reliance on connectivity and high ease of operation. Boot on, boot off is so easy. So all those employee expectations are great, but what are the priorities organizations looking for? The first and foremost is the business agility. One certain impact that organizations are seeing with the COVID is uncertainty of business and volatility of business, and that is translating to a need to be completely agile in business. Any business that is not going to be agile is going to suffer in the near future. Wellness, has been a field of interest. We know that buildings, apart from energy certifications, have started wellness certification a few years ago already. It's already a maturing market. However, there's going to be much more to wellness in the workplace than ever in the past. It's not going to limit to wearing masks or sanitizing your hands. It's going to be much, much more. And some of these are going to actually have an opposing effect of sustainability that we have done in the past. For example, we moved from single-use plastic to reusable stainless steel or crockery, cutlery in the office. But now with all the COVID impact, we have no other choice but to go back to single-use plastic. But it's not sustainable. So there is an emerging wellness and thought leadership in this area that is imminent. Organizations very, very keenly looking for productivity. And so far, organizations haven't had a significant employee turnover. They're maintaining their staff, they're maintaining their talent, and so new joiners are still a minority. But an organization that will continue in the same spectrum over a period of time, there's going to be significant workforce which are new, which are completely virtual in how they connect to other co-workers in an organization. That may have an impact to productivity if organizations don't invest in the right solutions to solve for that. Talent. Most corporates, most industries have always been in a talent war in the last 2-3 decades, but it's more imminent now. Those employees who are working for companies because this organization office is near to me or easy to commute, all those are null and void now. Now that they're all virtual, they're going to look for any organization that suits their value system. And so organizations will need to invest in amplifying their value base, to attract the talent. There is a significant opportunity, as I call. Let me, put it on speed so you can digest this fast. So CRE and workplace, human resources and technology have predominantly been working on silos in the past. And that is the reality of how offices have been. There were very specific events that they needed to work towards, like a relocation, these teams came together. However, in the near future, that would definitely emerge. Workplace, will create not just primary, secondary offices, sales offices, engineering offices, offshore offices. They're going to start to think about collaboration hubs. My company, for example, is definitely investing in figuring out what is this collaboration hubs and how do we make sure major cities have a way for employees to go and collaborate. Whenever anybody asks what's your portfolio, we always describe them as number of offices, but our descriptions is already changing. It's transforming. I used to say, my company has 100 offices. Now we are saying our company has 30,000 work points globally. And that's the definition paradigm that we are seeing. The health and safety and ergonomics used to be predominantly a workplace forefront, but it now overlaps a lot with mental health and mindfulness with human resources. And if you look at human resource lens, what does this working from home or remotely going to impact with the employment contracts, compliances. Whatever the organization from a culture, human resource perspective, or from a workplace perspective, in terms of collaboration or productivity, we're looking at will need to be impacted through a good technological investment and a foundation of security. The employees are going to work from everywhere. How are we going to solve for security? If employees are going to think, I can work from anywhere at any time, there's going to be speed, there's going to be ease of access, all these directly impacting. And so this is a greater cause that the organizations need to move towards, and thus any solution organizations are creating across board, workplace, human resource technology, are coming together to co-create a solution that applies to the whole organization, what I call as a great convergence. So some emerging themes, that I think from a workplace professional that we need to note. Automation. Automation has been the in thing for a while. Prop techs to all kind of technology has been out there. Internet of Things and several applications of Internet of Things. However, I think there is a significant change in transformation mindset that's emerging. That essentially, like I said before, a mobile first attitude. And so all our processes, our offerings will need to go into employees to consume through a mobile first platform. Operations. We have operated a chiller plant, an air conditioning unit, preventative maintenances, many of these in a very traditional manner for many, many decades. We have, in the last decade or so, emerged to closely monitor employee experience, but I think there is a significant acceleration on that area, and definitely an emerging trend that directly translates to travel retention. And this experience, please, do not relate it as just a workplace experience from workplace teams. It is the same human resources, technology, and HR combined effort that I am referring to, at least. Scalability is the most important aspect for organization today. Many companies are doing still well. Of course, their margins are reducing, profitabilities are decreasing, but they're still in the positive note. And definitely everyone is looking for, as soon as this situation is going to change, is going to emerge, how do we scale back? How do we scale in a manner that's very consistent, and there's a lot of ownership that comes through the scalability, otherwise it's going to fall out. The scalability can by itself be the single most contributing pillar to companies, organizations, long-term profitability, long-term existence in many ways. Agility. Typically, any program, any initiative has had a certain life cycle. If you are associated to software industry like I am, you probably know 10 years ago, you had a software, and softwares typically had a version release update every 6 months, every 1 year. Today, your iOS mobile apps or your other apps, they release versions every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 5 weeks. So it's going to apply to everything that we do from a workplace going forward. We have to be fast, and we have to fail fast to learn and implement. And we have to keep a record of all these movements quite a lot, so that the analytics can kick in and help us graduate in making the right decisions going forward. Most importantly, this is significant transformation. I mean, if you've been here for more than 10 years, you would remember the transformation from a traditional cubicle farm to an open plan office that many of us sit in today. That took more than 10, 15 years of evolution. The evolution of this distributed workforce that we are talking about is happening in 6 to 12 months. That is significant speed. And if we want to be in tune with this, we got to make sure that we are celebrating the journey. It emerges a great opportunity for distributed leadership, that every one of you will be able to contribute into. I want to end with quickly coming to this particular opportunity statement. While there are a lot of challenges to this group, socio-economical, geopolitical, elections in the US and US-China relationships to all other forces that is aggravated due to COVID. There's a lot of efficiency that we still have. This team can produce, and corporates are going to look at us to produce those efficiencies and direct impact to the bottom line. And that what I call as a great migration. I, for one, working for this technology company, I have been, the center stage of many of the corporate conversations to which I never had a seat at the table in the past. So this is a great time to be in workplace and in that practitioner. So with that, I draw to an end. I know it was brief. I had to compensate for my audio issues as well. I'm going to give it a pause there. I'm going to stop sharing, and that will leave us a few minutes of Q&A.
Yeah. Perfect, Sushil. Thanks for sharing your views as well. I'm just going to share my screen. Give me a second. Right, there we go. All right, so we do have a couple of really good questions coming from, a bunch of different people at the moment. But yeah, I think one of the key ones that really was repetitive from a bunch of different people, I'm just going to direct it to you, Sushil, is Sushil. So yeah, you can answer that question. I was just asking you, how has COVID impacted your organization, and what steps have you taken to cater for it so far? Yeah, I'm not able to hear you, Sushil. All right, no worries. Well, William, are you able to hear me?
So why do you throw a question at me and Sushil can fix his audio?
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So I think there's been just going through the questions that people have posted. I think there's been a big push on, I guess, the challenges of implementing prop tech into the current climate, whether it's occupancy monitoring, or even in current situation, you're trying to relocate staff to new spaces, or even to prevent spread or cross-contamination in real time. And how is prop tech gonna play a part in that? And also, the challenges of implementing that with organizations currently when there's a big pushback from clients in bringing that on board.
Yeah, so I did read some of the questions in the question trail. So I'll offer a few things. Space planners, right? I think before COVID-19, the whole industry was moving towards more real-time automated gathering of data in order to understand utilization, right? The clipboard and the guy walking around was slowly getting to be less and less. And I think what COVID-19 has done is accelerate the need to move forward towards all that automated data capture and being more efficient about it. Now, it's not just a shift in the method of collection, but look, if you are collecting data using a sensor or using some tag, you have data that is 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 times more than your clipboard guys that collect, once an hour, every hour, right? And the whole technique around how do you make sense of that data is completely different. A lot of space planners have a lot of Excels, really good ones, and a lot of charts that they churn using this small set of data. The future has to move towards much more than that. A little bit of heuristics, a little bit of even machine learning, to feed a machine that usage pattern and see what it actually means. Because you're not looking at 2,000 rows, you're looking at terabytes of data in a month, right? The other thing is, Yeah, the pushback around occupancy. Yeah, we've seen that before COVID. It's gone less, right? Now everywhere we go, we have the trace together, scan. We're telling the government basically where we are every time we go out of the house, right? Now, if you think about this, the industry, our industry inside office spaces needs solutions that are anonymous. And there exist solutions that are anonymous, meaning if you want to solve cleaning or improve cleaning, you don't need to know who was at the space. You just need to know how often that space is being used and potentially by how many people, right? And so there's an anonymous element of it that the industry was just trying to get used to before COVID. That I think I don't think the industry fully appreciate that there are anonymous type solutions. Just think about the guys who invested in face recognition for occupancy, and now everyone wearing a mask and all the face recognition. Basically, you're going to get zero ROI in the short term, right? Yeah, but I think the key one that everybody needs to think about is, can we do anonymous until necessary? So trace together is a good example, and many countries have picked up on that, meaning let's trace anonymously, it's in your device, until someone actually catches COVID-19. Then we start to really need to know who was at that desk, right? So I think that part of it is not in existence yet, but it probably needs the tech players to start to think about that and how they can solve that question or that challenge using some of the technology that we have. And maybe the governments will solve it for us because they make each and every one of us carry a token wherever we go, right? On the question about BCP, work from home, look, it's unprecedented time. We never had this much use of the alternate location and the home as a workplace, and for so long. We are in October now, right? I will tell you, with no names named, BCP was an exercise. Someone went into the alternate space, boot up the notebook, can connect to the server, and that's fine. But that space only had one notebook because they didn't have the budget to put equal number of machines there. Right. So I won't say that business have failed. And nobody anticipated the veracity of this situation and the length of the situation. I would say generally most people didn't do as much up to what it necessarily has to be. But that's I'm sorry, I would say it's facts of life. You don't cover every single the cost to cover every single eventuality is too high for most businesses, right? So I think, yes, a lot of them fell short because they never imagined it to have happened. But I think the one that we all need to consider is how pervasive this work from home or work from alternate location has been. A lot of governments and a lot of banks and bank direct business heads openly say that there's no way we're going to work from home. There's no way we're going to work from home. We are handling too sensitive data. People cannot do the work at home. And guess what happened? Everybody kind of work from home, right? I mean, there are segments of people who cannot work from home, but a lot of deeply entrenched health beliefs have been basically destroyed. And I think that's really key for us to think about. That's why I keep saying the necessity, it was born of necessity. It's not that suddenly everyone revolted and said, I want to work from home. It came out from a necessity. But after the necessity has perpetuated for 10 months in Singapore, you come to a situation where, well, actually, there are many good things about that necessity that we need to continue. And that's back to the key point I wanted to make is that is the key shift in thinking. And it's not about us changing the game. The game's changed for us. And we kind of really have to catch up with it. I hope I answered some of the questions because, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was quite detailed. I think we'll just run through like one more real quick. I know it's already past 2 p.m., so I do apologize for the time frame. But William, yeah, I'm just going to direct it to you once again. I guess with more people working from home now, like which model has a better prospect now, like whether in-house FM or outsourced FM, and how's it sort of affecting people's productivity and effectiveness moving forwards?
I do feel that I'll bring back to the slide where your individual context really matters. I think what we've learned even before COVID as real estate people is corporate real estate, to be specific, right? VMware will behave differently from JLL, will behave differently from, it's a very cultural, it's also work-based, right? Like when, like for JLL, for example, when COVID-19 came work from home, it was totally a non-event. And I have friends working in Dell who said the same thing. Obviously, non-event because their culture is already always working from home and working anywhere. But then people in the banking sector, I think, were the ones that saw the biggest challenge. I have many friends in the banking sector that the bosses can't operate if they don't see you face to face and grill you, and they get dragged back to the office. And even now, I think the most likely to be back in the corporate office are bankers, because they culturally that's what they do. Now, just to answer that question more straight on point is, I think in the future it's going to be a mix. It's going to be mixed, and the composition of the mix will really depend on your situation. But for sure, there will be a composition of it that is a fixed office, or a physical space where people go and do work together. And for sure, the home office will be there, right? And so those two are in. Whether the servicing model, like I said, this was really being challenged, right? Even before COVID, landlords going to do more. Builders going to build in more smart so that you need less FM in the space, right? Yeah, and also even for the service provider, mobile FMs, right? Rather than stationary FM, have mobile FM that covers a few sites. And by extension of that, why not cover a few clients, right? So look, my thoughts are, it will be a mix. The mix will depend on your context, your culture, your business, the nature of work. And it's up for evolution in the next foreseeable 1-2 years as people come to terms with this changed landscape.
Okay, perfect. Well, look, thanks for sharing your thoughts, guys. Really appreciate it. I think that's really all the time we've got today. So just before we finish, just to everybody who's attending, you guys will receive a link to the recording of the webinar, after it ends, and we'll also be sending across a survey, which is not going to take you more than 5 minutes, just to sort of get some feedback as to how it was and where we can improve moving forwards. But yeah, thanks everybody for attending, and whoever could make time today, really appreciate it. Thanks, William. Thanks, Sushil.
Hassaan, thanks, Sushil, and thanks everyone for joining.
Cheers. Bye-bye.